I'm going to start off the interview. I can tell that we're going to have a long conversation, and I'm super excited about it. And I'd like to do just a little bit of context. When I started preparing the interview, I realized that it would take 10 days to get your book. So I started, okay, I'm going to research some stuff and I'll see what I can read. And I found an excerpt, a part of the book in a Vanity Fair article. And third paragraph in, I just stopped reading and I ordered the book because the writing was so compelling and it was so true. And I'm not even going to insult your intelligence by asking if you wrote it, because I know you wrote it, because I've seen a lot of interviews of yours and you can tell that's your voice behind the words.
I wrote
And
it, and it was very difficult to get it,
just the way you wanted it.
well, not have someone else tell me what I was doing and expect me to sell it as a different kind of book and very many things. It was very complicated, and my life changed dramatically, writing and publishing the book.
Okay.
I certainly found out who was what you might call on my team and who wasn't.
Really? How so?
Well, it really set me free. And, the majority of people who are around any sort of celebrity don't ever really want you to be free.
They want to have some kind of control over you.
They really do. And they really felt like they were going to control me and this book in ways that were, if you actually read the book, you realized were wildly inappropriate.
Well, I haven't read the book, but I've read enough of it to know that this is, the only filter you used in the book was the honesty, no crap kind of filter. If
Right.
from what I've seen. And before talking about the content of the book, I'd like to ask you what triggered you into writing that book. Was it something that was in your head for many years? Was that like a particular
First
moment
of all,
in
there
time?
was no trigger at all. Trigger would be a word that doesn't exist when it comes to writing that book. Many of those things that are in the book were written long before I started writing the book. I was writing short stories for many, many years, and I wanted to write a book of short stories, which no one would publish because I guess I'm not Tom Hanks. And they told me that no one would want to read my book of short stories, that I had to write a memoir. So a lot of my books are my short stories woven together into a memoir. Because when you're a woman writer, even though some of my short stories had been published in magazines, I couldn't get a publisher to publish my short stories or novel. So I had to write the memoir to get published, because that's the way the world works for female celebrities.
But did you put that, like, your short stories are all in the book, or do you still have short stories that can be published? Because we can publish them through
Oh, well,
Lighthouse.
I have about 100 of them.
Wow.
We can do like a selection. Yeah, it's already on the table. Let's talk about it, and we'll
after we
publish
talk
the-
about that.
Yeah, we talk about that.
I'm actually been thinking about doing a show where I make my short stories into a theater piece.
Okay, nice.
Cool.
We can do all of it together. Yeah.
I mean, they've been published in like The Atlantic and in Esquire, and I think maybe even Vogue published one time. But they've been published in a few different magazines.
Yeah, but let's do like, we can do a book or something, even take care of like publishing like a real
But my paperback is coming out in March.
Okay.
So when is this coming out?
March.
Yeah.
I
Around
mean,
10.
it might be an interesting time to just put another one of my stories in.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel like it. I have a bazillion of them.
Oh, we would love to.
Yeah, cool.
I think it's going to be amazing to publish in the
I
magazine as
heard
well.
in an interview that you said when you wrote the book, you didn't thought that people will read the book.
I didn't really write it with the construct of anyone reading it. I just wrote it. And I don't think until I did the book, the audio book, because it was still COVID, and I did it in my room by myself, in my bedroom. And, you know, I did the whole selling it on Zoom. And I wasn't getting a tremendous amount of support from my previous team. I was just getting a lot of, you know, I thought I had a New York Times interview as an author, and it turned out they'd sold me as a celebrity profile where they wanted to interview my family and friends. Like that had something to do with my book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had no idea what was happening. And I tried to do the interview, and, you know, my publicist had already told these stories. And, you know, I wasn't going to give my family and friends to an interview about my book.
Yeah.
People who hadn't even read my book. And so then the New York Times ended up not running my interview.
Okay.
And I ended up firing my publicist of 30 years because they were selling me to do all these things that had nothing to do with author interviews and not backing me up and not telling me what was happening. So I was getting in these terrible positions, and I ended up with rosacea all over my face.
Because of the stress?
So I got this rosacea, like my eyes swelled closed, and, you know, I just didn't know what to do. And I lost my place climbing the New York Times bestseller chart. I got to 4, and then I got rosacea over my face. And I just decided not to push through, but to take the time off and determine a healthy path forward, because my book is about a healthy path forward and about getting people really out of your life who are not really on your team, not on your side, not hearing you, not seeing you, but seeing you for their own agendas, really, and really understanding the difference and experiencing and knowing when you're in a healthy environment and when you aren't. And so I had to sacrifice climbing the New York Times bestseller list for my own personal health and well-being. And I just felt like it was a big lesson for me, releasing the book. I had the most astonishing publishing, editing house, because Knopf, and it was, at the beginning, the man who ran it was the legendary person. And he's the person that took me and said that I was his next Irish storyteller. And he really guided me through the whole process. And the minute I turned in my final edit, he died. Okay. And then they brought in a temporary head of the company, and she wanted to sell my book like, what do you call it? Like a tabloid.
Okay.
Like a tabloid sensation.
She says all of these things, read all about it, something like that, instead of a memoir.
She wrote like the inside cover stuff and the sell thing to give to magazines as like a tabloid sensation. Mm-hmm. And I said no. And they said, well, we own your book. And I said, I'll burn the book and give the money back. I'm not doing that. I'm not a tabloid sensation. This is not a tabloid story. Yeah. And that was very, very, very stressful. But again, this was a period of writing the book and going through these life lessons where I had to learn to have boundaries. And I had to learn how to have boundaries. And I had to learn that to have boundaries, you have to say no to things. Okay. No to things you want in order to get the things you want. You have to say no to the things you don't want. And I find that, I think this is a big lesson for people in this Me Too era. You know, people have negotiated and given up things that they didn't want to give up in order to get things that they wanted. And in truth, you don't give up what you don't want to give up to get things that you want and then blame someone else. You know,
It's interesting because the book is called "The Beauty of Leaving Twice," and I guess from what I've gathered, that it has to do with your health crisis in 2001. And I want to get to that, but I want to ask you: is the book as well "Living Twice" because there's a Sharon Stone pre-book and a Sharon Stone after the book?
No, the book is about explaining that the lesson that I learned by going through the hell of a stroke and the broken marriage and my, you know, son being here and not here and, you know, just growing up through losing my career, losing everything. Like thank you. What was the life lesson that I learned that took me to having a stroke? What was it that really happened? You know, and it was child abuse. You know, when you are abused as an infant and a toddler, you become very, very vigilant. And you're always vigilant. And so when you walk into a room at a party, everybody's happy, you look for the person in pain because that's the dangerous person, right? But when that happens, those people who are willing to make a deal with those people end up in the Me Too circle, right? They're like, oh, I gave him a massage so I didn't have to fuck him so I could get out of there. Well, guess what? You don't have to give him a massage either. You can just go no and leave. Well, when I wrote the book, I was able to say no to all these people. No to my former publicist, no to the New York Times article, no to the weird tabloid sales of everything, no to going higher on the New York Times list. No, no, no. No, I would prefer to be healthy, sane, no. And so what I'm doing now in my career, particularly in my career, is saying a lot of no, 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 no. No, you can't do that. No, I won't do that. No, it has to be like this. No, thank you. Nope, no, thank you. No, no. No, you know that's not right. And when they write back and say, well, here's why it is right, I say, okay, that's right for you, but guess what? Not right for me. Pass, go to somebody else who that might still be right for. Because I'm starting to understand more and more and more what a boundary really looks like. And how to have a boundary, explain my boundary, and have someone come back and explain to me why my boundary is stupid. And then go, okay, well, you're not worth my time or space. Thanks a lot, fuck off. And I don't have to be mean about it or unkind about it, but I also don't have to be compromised over it because I'm no longer willing in my life in any way, shape, or form to have a stroke, you know, or any subset of that.
I hate that you had to have a stroke to like be able to say all those no's and realize that nothing is worth my mental health, my health, and everything like that. But
I said all the no's before, but the constant pressure that I was under because she's difficult, she's so difficult. She's so fucking difficult. She's always so goddamn difficult was just killing me.
Yeah.
Until it nearly killed me. Saying no nearly killed me. Except now I say no out loud. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't just say, oh, these tiny little fists. No, I can't do it. No, I just gotta not do it, but I'm gonna somehow be nice to her. No, thank you. No, I'm really, okay, I'm nice, but no, I can't do it. No, I'm gonna pretend everything's okay, but no, I'm still gonna be, but I'm difficult, but no, still like me, please like me, no. No, now I'm just gonna say no. Thanks a lot, no. Go fuck with somebody else. No.
Even before the book, even before the stroke, whatever I've read on the book and whatever I've read about your whole journey as an actress, you were always deemed difficult exactly because you wouldn't put up with crap. You saw and you thought, okay, this isn't right. I won't sit on that director's lap. I won't let this woman be the meaner that, I mean, you always said no, but at the time you had to more or less make peace of that.
Like, no, you can't pay me less. Even if the actor works 3 more weeks than me, you can't pay me less, because here's what happens. The actor doesn't go sell the movie. They go on to their next movie, when guess what? I don't get a movie because I'm a woman, and I have to wait for the oh so less female parts that there are. So there isn't a movie for me. There is one for him immediately. And there is so much less pay for me because my part will never be as big as the man part, just for starters. But my job of selling it will always be the big part, which you do for guess what? Free. So why should I be not paid to spend months selling a movie for the actor that doesn't show up to sell it because he's got another high-paying job that I'm not going to get, while I got paid half or a third or a quarter of what he got paid while I'm out there selling his movie for free? Well, they tell me, well, maybe we'll give you $1,000 more a week because he does work 2 more weeks than you. Well, who's going to sell your fucking movie?
Yeah.
You know, not him, because he'll have another job, because there's all these men movies. So, like, get a clue. Like, you have to pay me the same because I'm the one that's going to sell it.
And that's
Like, grow up.
yeah, that's why.
Who's in the magazine? Who's on TV? Guess what? Me. Who's doing the magazine shoots? Who's on the TV shows at night? Me.
That's why you were.
Who gets paid for that? Not me.
That's why you were one of the first actresses to get paid more and pave the way for other ones.
Yes, but still, Michael got 14 million for Basic Instinct. I got 500,000. When I wanted 2 million to do my next picture, they told me that that was a no-go, that would never happen in the Hollywood industry, that an actress would make $2 million. Do you know how hard I worked to get 2 million a picture? And then 4 or 5? Did I ever get 8 or 10? No.
Yeah.
Did I ever get the kind of money these guys got? No. What am I getting offered to go do a movie now? $500,000.
I feel appalled. I had no idea it was the difference was so appalling. It's an.
I got offered $450,000 to go do a movie with Pierce Brosnan and Morgan Freeman, and they offered me $1,000 a day more that I should do it now. Now, who's going to go sell that movie internationally? Morgan?
Yeah.
Pierce. Okay, who's going to sell that fucker? Okay, for free.
Yeah. You were totally right. I cannot believe that still happens today.
But
That's
still
something-
happen now?
Yeah, that's now.
And they told me that I should realize I'm not an essential element to the picture.
Well,
That they don't know what they're talking about.
But that's how they want me to why that I should take the deal. That's how it was explained to me.
That's appalling. That's really, really appalling.
Well, yeah, but I'm the second lead, not Morgan. But they financed it that way. Not with me, with them, and said, we didn't use you for financing. So, you know, I don't think so, Sharon, no. You know, no, you're not really essential to this picture. And I said, well, you know what? I'm essential to my children, so I'm going to stay home and take care of them.
I love that. That's why you write. That's why you write such compelling, because your kind of like humor and the way you say things. It's just.
You know what? I am essential because I go and sell the movies. I talk to the fans who are essential to these pictures. They are. The audience is essential to these pictures. and I talk to the audience. So like get a brain. Get what you're buying.
You're obviously very honest and not afraid to say things, but were you ever scared of anything you were going to write down on the book, like reluctant about the way people would react to it? Because it's a very, very personal book. It's you. It's you laid bare on a book. Were you ever afraid, thinking, maybe I shouldn't say this or that? Even though after talking 5 minutes to you, we know that this is probably something that doesn't really
A lot
cross
of
your
people are
mind.
going to stop talking to me. And a lot of people won't like that I tell the truth, but I'm done covering for other people. It's like, if you want to work anything out with me, that's so okay. I had a director talk to me recently who I had a very unhappy work situation with in the past, who said, I made a mistake. I treated you very badly. I was very, very wrong in the way that I treated you. You were really right. You behaved so correctly, and I behaved so incorrectly with you. And I owe you a terrible apology. I was so wrong, and I really misbehaved, and this is why, and this is what happened, and I can talk to you about it at great length, and I'm here as much as you need to talk about it, and I disrespected you, and this is what happened, and really opened up to me. And I said, wow, that's just fantastic, and I respect you, and I appreciate it, and that's all that needs to happen, and I'd be happy to work with you in the future. And that is true. That's all I ever want from anybody. I don't need to try anybody in the press. But if I ask someone to hear me and they refuse to hear me, and I have to go to the mat, like legally with them, to say, like, just stop torturing me, and they won't, and then they don't treat me fairly in the future, then I'm not protecting them. I'm not going to protect Harvey Weinstein for throwing me across the room at a cocktail party. Like, why would I? You know what I mean? But if somebody worked with me 25 years ago, and for whatever reason, they were uneducated, they were stupid, they were misogynistic, they were high, I don't care. And you come to me now and you say, I figured it out, I'm educated, I'm sober, whatever it is, we're good. But I'm not going to allow any of it to continue moving forward. We're all educated now. We all understand now what's going on. And we have to be willing to say, I'm sorry, or I'll learn how to be different, or whatever. Everybody has to learn and say, okay. But nobody gets to be complicit in their behavior and complicit in its continuation. So now in my book publishing company, where I was before, all the people that were giving me a hard time are gone. There's a new head of the place. There's new heads in all those departments, and the other people moved on to other companies. So I think everybody learned a lot from the process. That, like, going through a book like this during the Me Too era requires treating a person a certain way, with a certain amount of dignity and integrity and respect. That you have to actually read the book and act like you read it. You know what I mean? Not like you're out to get the author for writing these things. You know what I mean? That we're all trying to do something now. We're all trying to learn something. We're all trying to grow. We're all trying to invest in understanding our own behavior and learning from the things that have happened to us. Not just throwing each other under the bus for no reason whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's also like a learning process to read the book, to see yourself there and acknowledge and realize that maybe when someone that worked with you like 30 years ago didn't behave properly, maybe it was influenced by the industry and is now able to say, okay, at the time I didn't act correctly, I'm better now. And that's all the book really wants to portray.
Exactly. And we're all going through this same crazy business. Like the business itself is a tremendous amount of pressure.
Yeah.
And that person was under the same crazy amount of pressure that I was. And the fact that they weren't handling it great and they were, losing it in one way or another, that's understandable. People have died in this business, and more than a couple, and people have lost it in this business, more than a couple. It's totally understandable that any of that could happen. What's not understandable is not saying later, if someone said to me, you did this to me at this time, I'd say, okay. And then I would assess. Do I think that I owe an apology, or do I think that I owe an amends of some kind, or do I just think you're nuts?
Yeah. I was going to ask you because I know that the book is very personal, and even people think that we are talking about the business and the pressures of the business, and people may think that the book has a big part of your career, but it's also from what I've read, it's more personal than the business. Though there's a chapter, a part, an episode where you speak about all the things you've done up until the basic instinct, because at first you had to struggle a lot to be screen tested, and I wanted to ask you, what made you think that this is the movie I have to go through to all of this? Because I heard that your manager had to sneak in the offices of the director to steal the script because no one would give it to you. I read that you told that you had like 7 or 8 months until they agreed to screen test you.
Yeah.
What made you persevere? What made you think that this is a game changer movie and I need to be in it?
The character was so complex. And first of all, to get a script with a female lead is, how often is there a script with a female lead who's not dressed in a leotard?
Yeah. In 92.
With a shield. Like, how often? I've been shortlisted for like Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, but like otherwise, how often is there a movie where the woman is a powerful central character?
Yeah.
Like, how about never? And then how often is the character, even if they are a central character, the driving factor in the film? Right?
Yeah.
Not ever. The character is never the driving factor of the story. They're always like running next to the car. Bye, honey. Oh, you're home. You know what I mean? There's not ever where the character is not only driving the story, but the intellectual mechanism of the story. Yeah. And the unknown intellectual mechanism, really like an Orson Welles character, where the character has this weird thing happening in their mind, so that even if you read the script, you still don't know what the character is going to do. There's this constant unknown. And I just thought, oh my God, this is like a Bette Davis character. This is like crazy, never happens. Like they just don't write these. It's like, when have you ever seen a character like this that is just not constantly, you kind of see it in Fatal Attraction, but she's constantly in effect of what Michael does. Mm-hmm. She's reacting. She's not driving it. So it's so rare. And I just thought, oh, like, this is incredible. This is just like never. And in my acting class, my teacher was like letting me go. He was like, well, I guess you're never going to get it. And I was like, but I haven't gotten it. And so he brought me back to play the men's parts. And once I played the men's parts, that's when I totally understood acting, because I couldn't understand anything playing the women's parts, because all we do is react. Oh, thank you. Yes. Can I get something for you? Yeah. So I never understood what acting was. Then when I started playing the men's parts, it was like, oh, you're a human being. Right. Acting is about being a human being. Okay, I get it. And then suddenly there was this Basic Instinct script, and I was like, oh, I get it, because the character's a human being. Up until then, in the other 18 movies I've done, all the characters could be was drunk or high, because no woman would actually behave in any of these ways that these women were behaving, because the men had written all these parts, and they were just some fantasy idea of how a woman might act in their fantasy mind of this fantasy sequence. And no woman I'd ever met ever behaved like that. So I thought, oh, well, she's drunk, she's high. There was no real reason for this behavior otherwise. She must be a lunatic or drunk or high. So I'd never really read a script where the character was self-motivated. And so I was like, oh, someone wrote a script about a woman, and a woman with a self-motivated construct, crazy or not. So fascinating.
Was that because of all of that you also said the okay to the cross and cross leg vagina part of, let's say, things by its name, vagina part of the movie? Because I know you struggled in the beginning of that. After seeing the screening of that part, I know that you called your lawyer if you could get an injunction and all of that, and then you kind of realized, wait.
Well, I really trusted and do trust Paul Verhoeven very, very much. I mean, his films before are why I wanted to work with him on Total Recall, because these films like Spetters and Soldier of Orange and things were so particularly insightful. And the construct of the films were very specific and character driven, and they ignited a kind of greater psychological understanding of ourselves with this, by knowing the characters. So that's why I wanted to work with him right from the beginning. And then when Basic Instinct was happening and I wanted to audition for it, no one wanted to audition with me because I was just, like a tertiary character in film. I hadn't really had a kind of substantial lead in an important film. So when it came to that scene, which became like a much talked about scene in that period because it was 30 years ago. I mean, now, I forget what I was watching the other night, but there were so many men walking around naked with their penises out on TV. And I thought, this is just so charming, because in my career, it was such a big moment with this, millisecond of possibility that you might see up my dress. And now men are walking around. On this one scene, there must have been 15 men, full frontal nudity on a TV show. And I was watching it thinking, this is so charming. and thinking about the amount of grief. And literally, this caused me to in part, was part of the reason I lost primary custody of my child.
Really?
Yet they asked my 8-year-old child on the stand, do you know your mother does sex movies?
You're kidding. That's the question. Sex movies?
Sex movies.
That's appalling.
That scene is part
Sex
of the
movies.
real. But you feel that scene is part of the story of the cinema?
Right. And men didn't want to date me because they thought, oh, everybody masturbated to that scene. And it's like, the pressure and the upset that this caused in my life over such a silly little nothing. But the impact that it had to me, a naive person in the theater, when they showed it to me in front of 30 men who were strangers, and the insult of showing it to me after I'd ripped my guts out playing the part, I really felt like you could have at least shown it to me by myself. Or talked to me about it by myself. Because I guess if it had been Michael and we saw a glimpse of his penis, they probably would have asked him if he was comfortable with that. But because it was me and I was insignificant to everyone, they didn't care if they humiliated me in front of 30 strangers instead of giving me a chance to psychologically adjust to it. It was easier to just go, oh, fuck you, it'll be fine. And so it became a bigger thing to me because I was humiliated and embarrassed instead of asked with respect. Yeah. The same respect I'd given everyone in the making of my performance. The same respect I gave my director, the same respect I gave my co-stars, the same respect I gave my producers, the same respect I gave my cameraman. Because I didn't get the same respect back professionally, I was like, I didn't like it. And I don't like it. And that is part of the reason that I am so difficult.
You were. Nowadays, people don't see you like that.
I think they still do because they think that that is a difficult thing, that it's difficult to respect a woman. It's difficult to look at the big picture and think that bitch is going to travel all over the world selling my movie. Maybe she is essential to my picture. But maybe it's essential that I respect her like I respect the same actor that I'm working with. Maybe these are essential elements. It is difficult for people to come to this table and grasp that. It's been difficult for the studios to understand that I'm not going to sign my contract in the makeup chair on the first day of production ever again. It's been so difficult that production has had to be held up because I won't go to work unless my contract has been signed prior to the first day of work. Yeah. So difficult that they've actually had to stop production because they played chicken with me. No, we're not giving you your contract to sign until you come to work on the first day of the show. As if on the first day of the show, I'm not supposed to be getting in hair and makeup, getting in my costume, studying my lines, going to work, being an actor, not reading my script, not reading my contract and being a lawyer and protecting myself legally, which I should be doing prior to my work day as an actor. Yeah. But I finally said, I'm never coming to work again unless I have my contract prior to my work day, like any CEO of any multi-million-dollar international corporation. But this became an actual standoff between me and the studios.
Do you know
this year? Because after 40 years in the business, I said, I'm not signing my contract in the fucking makeup chair.
Do you know that's funny because 3 years ago I interviewed you for Vogue, not like this, not in person, not in Zoom call, but such an honor 3 years afterwards being here talking to you face to face. But anyway, I digress. 3 years ago I asked you what would you say to your 21st-year-old if you had a chance, like to Sharon if she was 21 years old, and you told me amazingly, instead of like love yourself or I don't know, something that's more cliche, you said never let anyone sign anything for you, always always own up for your own decisions, read every contract. So it was very, very professional advice for your 21-year-old self, and I thought that it was amazing. The first thought that came to mind was like, Sharon must have learned so much throughout the years, because the first thing she thinks of when thinking, what would you say to your former self? It's like professional advice. And it's funny that
it's a professional job. And still people want to treat me and other women like myself like we're an afterthought. Yeah. Like they finance the movie without saving an equal amount of money to hire the female. Yeah. and then tell you you're not essential to the movie. Really?
In that same interview, you used the term which I think that is, I think that it became viral at the time, and it still rings in my mind, which is the term fuckable. Actresses were deemed if they were fuckable or not for movies to be
actors.
cast, and
And
actors
actors.
both. Okay, and but
Yes.
do you think that's still a
Which is
term
why
that
they
the
would not
studios
hire
use?
any gay actors.
Really?
You could be gay as an actress because that's pretty fuckable. But you can't be gay as an actor because how fuckable is that really? Come on.
Do you feel that still happens even if it's
Oh, yeah.
really? That's appalling to know.
Well, I don't know if it's appalling because people really want to have their screen girlfriends and screen boyfriends, and in truth, people do want you to be fuckable to a certain degree. That's why they come and watch you on TV. They do want to have a crush on you. I mean, I'd be pretending if I didn't say that Denzel was my screen boyfriend. You know, let's go. Like everybody has a screen boyfriend. You have one. You have somebody. Everybody has somebody. Everybody has their screen mom. You know, everybody has. If I could pick my dream mother, it's that person on film. Everybody has that. Everybody has that stuff going on. So, while it's awful to say, it's true in our psyche that it's a bad thing to say at the table, but when it comes to selling product,
It's still used.
yes, but it doesn't. I think that these certain people's idea of what that means is so arcane that it's foolish.
Yeah.
Because we don't really are never going to actually be with those people. What we want is to like them and be comfortable with them and feel safe with them and feel like we like them and want to be with them. And I think the idea of what that meant,
At the time,
what it should mean, has been grossly misrepresented.
I was going to ask you out of my list of questions if motherhood is your greatest role.
Well, I love being a mom, and I became a mom very much on purpose. I adopted my kids, and I adopted my second two completely on my own. I could pretty much say I adopted my first one pretty much on my own too. But yeah, and that was him. He's my oldest, who is by choice has come to live with me since he's 16. And that's just fantastic. And he's in the International Culinary Institute.
Wow.
And he's going in. Today's his final banquet. But he's a little bit, Paris was sick with this for the last few days. He had this fever and feeling crummy. And
Kind of like a virus going around.
yeah, it's been going around and people think they have COVID, but it's not COVID.
Yeah, there still are other diseases than COVID, of course. Though you have
Right?
to,
And our immune systems are kind of whacked out because we haven't been exposed to anything, so we're getting kind of fragile.
yeah, we were talking about that at dinner today as well.
Many,
And yeah,
sorry,
you.
many people that I talk, they think in Casino is your best role. You agreed with that?
In many ways, it was the best. I mean, Basic Instinct is a fantastic part. I think it was very much underestimated because of the sensationalism at the time. But that was just a very great, comprehensive, wonderful part. I think Casino was so great because I had such unbelievable co-stars, such amazing co-stars, and such an incredible director. Not that Verhoeven's not he's such a great director.
Amazing.
But Scorsese is amazing. And I was supposed to go for 5 weeks and I ended up being in it for 5 months. But again, I think it's because I understood that the character was really the fulcrum character of the story. Like when I read the part, to me, she was the heart of the story. Like I feel like there's always someone's like the brain, someone's the heart, someone does this, someone does that. Like, to me, that character was the fulcrum that turned everything that happened. She was the person that was like the engine that kept making everything go crazy, go forward, go this way, go that way. And she was a very activating character. She just made me full of ideas. Like, every day I had more ideas, and I would come in with all these ideas for Marty. Like, look at this. I think I'll get a wig and big boobs. And what about this? And what do you think of that? And, I was so inspired because it was always my dream. My big end goal dream was to work with Scorsese and De Niro. That's all I ever, as an actor, that was all I ever wanted to do. I just wanted to work with them. I didn't have any other goal. Like, I know people have like, oh, I wanted to work with Terry Gilliam. Like, I want to work with Terry Gilliam, and I want to work with this Robert Redford, and I want to work with that person, and I want to play Queen Elizabeth, and I want to do this, and I want to go to Broadway. I only had the one goal. I had the one goal. I want to work with Scorsese and De Niro. Like, I had that goal from the beginning of time. That was my goal. Like, people say to me now, do you have some dream part? No. I would like to work with Scorsese again. I'd like to work with Soderbergh again, but no, pretty much, like, I got to do the thing I really friggin' wanted to do.
Do you think now, in our days with Netflix and so much content, so much that people almost see the things after see another one and don't stop thinking what? Do you think that will affect in the future the art, the meaning of the things with so much
Well,
content?
I think that good art is equally as rare as it's always been. But there's a lot more good things, but still, like, exquisite things are still equally as rare as they've always been.
But in the middle of so much content, don't you think sometimes people don't stop thinking about that amazing thing
Because now
that saw?
we talk about Casino and Basic Instinct, like these big iconic movies that will be remembered through generation after generation. People will re-see them. And now there's so many movies out there. Do you think there's time for a movie nowadays to become iconic like Casino and Basic Instinct are?
If there is one, it'll be iconic. But I don't like this year's Oscar content does not hold an iconic. I mean, Tick Tick Boom is really, really good. I think really good. And I think Belfast is so beautiful. And there's a couple of movies, Hand of God. Wow, what a great movie.
I love that.
And a movie that didn't even get nominated, this I'm Your Man, is a fascinating film, really intriguing. The documentary on Julia Child, really beautiful. There's so many beautiful things to look at. But is there something that I think, well, that's going to just stand the test of time?
Okay.
That film is going to be one of those films that no matter where you are, when it comes on, you're just going to leave it on. You're going to, like, if it's in the middle of that film,
You're going to see the rest of it or push it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
you're just going to watch it. Like, there's not a lot of movies. Like, I just saw Casino a few months ago, and I hadn't seen it all the way through in many, many, many years, because sometimes you turn on the TV and it's on halfway through. And like, if I'm listening to music, I just turn off the volume and I leave the film on. So because Thelma Schumacher is the greatest editor of all times, it goes to music. You could leave that film on at a party and it edits to music. It's just spectacular. Her editing is so synchronistic. And that's just another thing, is like the quality of what editing. She edits emotionally and she edits to a synchronistic pattern. And so there's not a lot of film that edits to a beat. She edits to a beat so that you're in it. Psychologically, you're in the beat when you're watching the movie too. Yeah. You know what I mean? because she started with her husband and they made all those great films. And like I mean, you know, you look back at the history of filmmaking, this backdrop is so beautiful what you're leaning against.
It's in our office. You have to come here.
Yeah, you have to come here. You have to come to Lisbon, meet the offices, and we have GQ Man of the Year coming up, probably if COVID permits, and you have to come over and just
Yeah.
spend a few days in the city with the event, and then just doing vacations.
And we were in Spain for L.
Lisbon is much better. Lisbon is much better.
I have never been to Lisbon. Have you?
Never. Really?
You have my favorite thing in Lisbon of all, the Andalusian horses. Oh, I love to ride those horses more than any horses that exist on the planet.
We're going to plan your trip around the horses, but
To ride those horses with the caballero.
you were talking about casino and just popping it up in the television or getting it halfway through in the television, and it's interesting that Casino and Basic Instinct and even Basic Instinct at the time it came out, people didn't receive it that well as they do now. Now it's become this cool iconic movie, but at the time it got some backlash, and I wanted to ask you if you feel that these iconic movies also made you iconic for generations that weren't even born in the 90s. Do you feel like that?
It's really funny. It's really funny because, you know, no one calls me Sharon. Everybody calls me Sharon Stone. Even little kids call me Sharon Stone. You know, it's like Cher, but it's like all one thing. Sharon Stone. It's really one word. It's really funny and cute. It's Sharon Stone.
I'm going to skip to a question I have here because while I was writing this list of questions, I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm going to speak to Sharon Stone, like this, first and last name. Oh my God, I'm going to speak to Sharon Stone. And then I thought, does she know and goes, oh my God, I'm Sharon Stone? And maybe you don't, and probably you do, but do indulge us. What it's like to be Sharon Stone.
Do I know when that I'm Sharon Stone? No. This is you have to answer.
No. That's actually a funny question.
Yeah.
No. The real Sharon Stone is someone who was in t-shirts and jeans and hanging out at her house. Not the movie star.
And when I go out and forget, because I forget when I'm walking out of a premiere.
Yeah.
and I never remember.
No. Why is that person staring at me?
Yeah.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding?
These fucking people, they just won't stop staring at me. Like, and I go like, hey, turn around.
Yeah.
Like, hello, turn around. And
I'm like, they're really looking at me, Sharon.
And I'm like, what is wrong with these people? They're like, hello, I'm having lunch. Turn around.
No, that's funny.
I'm eating. Like,
Good question, but no.
Like, no, I totally, like, and I'm walking down the street and the paparazzi starts chasing me and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like, no, I totally know. And you would think that by now, like, I would never forget, but like.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
So funny. It's so funny that when I get dressed up to go out somewhere, my friends go, oh,
Sharon Stone's here.
oh, look,
The
Sharon
star.
Stone's here. We're going out with Sharon Stone.
Or
Oh,
let's go put your Sharon on.
yeah. Go put Sharon Stone on so we
Put
can go
Sharon
out.
Stone
We want to get into a place. Go put Sharon Stone on. Go put Sharon Stone on. We want to get into a restaurant.
We're still going to do a T-shirt with that.
It will be the title of the interview. Put your Sharon Stone on.
That's the
That is
title.
so cool.
That's the title of the interview.
Can we do a T-shirt saying that?
Yeah.
Put your Sharon Stone on.
Put your Sharon Stone on so we can get into the restaurant.
That's going to be so funny. It's done.
Go put your Sharon Stone on so we can get a reservation. Like they're all booked up. Put your Sharon Stone on so we can go.
That's going to be a hashtag for sure. Anyway, I'm going back to the interview, well, like to the back of the interview. And I read also in the book you say that Bruno, your bodyguard, said that you used to be more difficult than you are nowadays. And he says it has to do with Buddhism. And I'd like to ask you what Buddhism is to you, and
I think it has to do with fatigue, but we'll let him think it has to do with Buddhism. I just don't stay up for 3 days in a row like I used to. But I will let him think it's Buddhism. Actually, I think it's both. I think really I have become quite balanced. And I used to just run them ragged. I mean, because, I'd land in Paris and who doesn't want to go out to every club, every restaurant, every show, everything, because, I'm in Paris, I'm in Rome, I'm in London, but like now I'm in Paris. God, I love the lamps in my room. Paris, God, the room service is so, and the view. So yeah, it's different when you're 30 to when you're 60, but and also, I still love to be able to go, when I can go to the museums when they're closed, that is still like the greatest perk. That's my world's greatest perk, that I get to go to the museums on Monday. Nothing is greater about being famous than that to me.
But I need to understand why this being famous makes you go to museums on Monday, because they're closed and they open the door for you.
Yes.
Great.
Wow.
That's when you put
Without
your
the
Sharon
t-shirt.
Stone on.
Right? So I can go when they're sweeping the floors and cleaning the rooms and dusting the paintings and all of that business, and nobody else is there, so that I'm not in there creating a security risk or people climbing all over me or shoving me up against a painting or creating a problem for the museum. I can go when no one is there and sit on the floor and spend 2 hours staring at a painting.
Yeah.
And nobody cares because it's me and the guy who's vacuuming.
Yeah.
And, and it's for me like the greatest thing in the world, because who doesn't want to be able to stare at a painting for 2 hours and have nobody bug you?
Does the man that's sweeping the floor ask you to take a picture with you? Never. They don't know who you are.
They could care less. They just want to get the floor swept and get out of there and go home to their families. Like, I don't know who this crazy broad laying on the floor is, but whatever.
I'm loving this. Peace of mind is a rush, quote unquote, you say on the book. How so? Why is peace of mind a rush?
Well, again, I think when you have abuse as a child, there is a kind of, my sister was 3 years younger than me. So I was looking out for her and for me. And so there's this constant feeling of fear and upset and secrecy and angst, turmoil, confusion, malaise, illness. And so just to have just a simple peace of mind where you just simply feel safe.
It's priceless.
It is, it's fabulous. It's the best of all things.
Yeah.
And so I'm very when I say my boundaries and someone doesn't listen, and I say them again and someone doesn't listen, and I explain them, and then people re-explain to me what my fucking problem is, I can get kind of my back gets up, and then I want to get explained louder or differently or whatever. And as an adult, I'm learning wait a second, I don't have to go through any of that. I can just say, well, here's the situation, here's what I observe, here's what I need, you don't want to say it, here's you explaining back why I don't have a value or worth that I need. Okay, here's me saying that situation is inappropriate for me and excuse me.
Yeah.
And so what used to be whoa, and I could act out over that, is me being able to say, please stop doing that. Here's why I'd like you to stop doing that. Here's me excusing myself.
Yeah. Okay. But
So it's peace of mind is something that I had to earn
okay.
and learn how to get.
Yeah.
It's not something that I was given
It's something you conquered.
or that I was born into.
Okay.
And it's something that's super, super valuable to me and something precious and something I protect.
Yeah. Before you got that peace of mind, also quote unquote, I used to love to piss people off just to watch. Like, for example, do you have like an episode where you just like,
Like when people would do that to me and just start telling me like why what I needed to feel safe wasn't important because I didn't have the value I thought I did.
yeah,
It would be easy for me to look at them and say one or two sentences
yeah,
about my observation of their value that could be, you know, people forget that I do emotions and emotional observation for a living.
yeah,
I'm a master of that.
yeah.
I'm not the person you want to fuck with on that level.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I see you. I really see you. So I can mirror back to you what you're doing to me, but put you and your value in place of what you're doing to me. And so I used to do that. I used to explain it back to them using them, their value, their worth, and their actual stuff. And I got a kick out of it because it was like, so how do you like it?
It's kind of like a lesson, you know?
I thought that it was.
Yeah.
And I thought I was the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
now
time to work.
I just think it's not really my job.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's my job because for them to be mean to me and me to be mean back is not really the lesson we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I think the better lesson for me to say is, no, thank you. No, thanks.
Yeah.
And for me to understand, like, you know, I get why you're trying to do that because it's worked for you for a really long time. And I get that this is a systemic issue. And no, because the whole time this has been happening to me for 40 years in my career, I've been protecting myself in other ways. I took my much smaller income and invested it in things that paid off for me. So guess what? I don't have to work.
Yeah.
And I took myself and I did this and this. So guess what? I don't have to deal with you.
Yeah.
And I don't need these things you're offering me because I learned a lesson from being offered things this way all along. And so I took care of myself and protected myself instead of just complaining. So I'm not at your mercy.
Yeah.
So while it may be working for you, it's not going to be working for you with me.
It's funny, not funny, that you mentioned that, like, throughout your years as an actress, you've changed as a person in the backstage. But did acting throughout the years also change for you? Do you feel that after so many years?
Hugely. It's changed for me. Oh my God, it's night and day. It's night and day. It's night and day.
In what way did it change?
It's a million times easier. Like I don't have to put myself through a 3-ring circus to access my work.
Okay.
I'm really available. I'm really available to my director. Like I've just worked on this show, Flight Attendant, and my director, like on the first day, gave me a piece of direction, and I thought, I have no idea why she wants me to do that, but okay. That seems weird, but okay. I'm going to try. And I did it, and it was remarkable. It was a remarkable piece of direction. That made no sense to me when she did it, but I thought, well, what's it going to do to me if I try it? Okay, fuck it. And so, And then I was like, oh, I get where she's coming from. Okay, great. Never heard of this type of thing. Interesting. So then she started giving me another piece of direction. I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay.
Yeah.
And suddenly I was like, this woman is directing me in a whole new way. And probably because I haven't been directed by women very much. And on the one or two times that I was, they tried to do that girlfriendy thing, which I don't get. Like, just direct me. I'm not here to be your buddy. Just tell me what you want from me. And this woman was so specific and amazing. And I was like, wow, new tricks. Fantastic, right? So great. And it was so easy. It was just so easy. I was just like, wow, opening new doors. Whoa, opening. And it's just like, I don't have fear in any way around the acting. It's like, I don't care. I don't have this, like, I have to succeed. I have to be the best. I have to be the one. Because if I'm not the one, there won't be a job. Because now I don't care if I have a job. Hire me, don't hire me. I don't care.
Yeah.
Give me the job, don't give me the job. Fuck off. I don't care. I'll take the job, I won't take the job. Okay. But he's like, oh, what's your dream job? I don't have one. Because I trust my life. I trust my path. I trust my journey. I'm not over here trying to think up, wow, what's my next big move? I trust my journey.
Yeah.
And I'm so safe in my journey that it's so much easier now because I trust myself. I trust my journey. I trust my choices. I trust my decisions. I trust I'm ending up where I'm supposed to be. I trust that I'm doing this interview with you. I trust that I'm telling my truth. I trust that I'm showing up on the right sets. I trust that I took this crazy TV show for just a few episodes. I don't do episodic television, but that show really, really moved me.
Which show was that?
It's called Flight Attendant.
Oh, Flight Attendant. Okay.
So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. It's just because I wanted to, she's an alcoholic. I wanted to play the sober parent.
Okay.
I wanted to explore playing the sober parent. It's not to me about, it's about, are you respecting me? Am I respecting you? Are we going on this journey where we're all going to move forward and it's going to be a great experience? That's it. That's my whole thing right now.
Yeah. And even if acting doesn't work or if they don't get you the job, you can still go writing because you write beautifully. Where did that love for writing come from?
You know, that was my major. I went to college when I was 15 on a writing scholarship.
Yeah, I remember that from the earlier interview from 3 years ago. You said that.
And so I've always been writing. I write songs. I had a number 4 song.
I had that you had 3 number ones in Germany, Argentina, and something like that. Something we heard.
Germany, Argentina, and then I had a number 4 song in America last year.
Okay. But you just wrote the song lyrics, correct? Someone else sang them. Okay.
I collaborate with musicians. I write the lyrics and they write the music.
All right. Okay.
And I currently am writing 2 songs with someone right now that has a publishing deal, and we're working on music for TV and movies.
Okay.
And then someone just asked me to write music with them. I have to look at my emails, but I just got a reach on that too yesterday. So it's going, it's just like I write music, I'm writing another book, I paint, I'm just comfortable as an artist. I'm not chasing around waiting for someone to validate me.
I was going to ask you as well, when you did your character in Ratched, the show it has a lot to do with mental health. and Vogue launched an issue called the Madness issue, and it had a lot of backlash because
Beautiful.
one of the covers. And I wanted to ask you, what did you think about the whole backlash in social media, and if you also had by portraying a character in a series that had to do with mental illness?
Well, first of all, that issue was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh my God, that issue was gorgeous. And I kept trying to get one, and I was looking everywhere to own one of those. That was so, so, so beautiful. The pictures in there were, it was visually the most beautiful Vogue ever.
Good to hear.
And I think that we do have to address madness in many, many, many levels, because creativity requires a certain amount of madness.
Yeah.
And this is what I try to tell my children, because I have now 4. And we all have antisocial aspects of our personality. And we all have dark aspects of our personality, and we should get to know them.
Yeah.
And then we should figure out how to take these parts and make them successful. And how do they work for us positively? You know, how does that part of you translate into success?
Yeah.
This is what I work on with my kids. You know, I remember taking my middle child out for a drive when he still was have to ride in the back seat. And we were out for a drive, and I told him, you know, this is your cross to bear. This is your burden. This is your problem in your personality. And I have one. Here's what mine is. Here's yours. What are you going to do to make this work for you? You know? And we really talked about it at length. And he had like a difficult one to conquer. And, you know, my older one had his issues, and I'm like, what are we going to do? And now, you know, I went through this with my youngest son, and he's very heady. And, you know, he went and got all of his different testing, and the doctor told him like his stuff, but not his dark side stuff. And I'm like, why didn't you tell him that? She's like, oh, I don't think I should. I'm like, that's the stuff he needs to know. That's the first stuff. You should go, oh, you know. And so I sat him down. I'm like, okay, here's the problem stuff.
Yeah.
This is the good stuff.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that can make you a winner. Because it's the problem stuff that makes you win.
Yeah.
This is your strongest stuff. This is the stuff that gives you power and strength.
Yeah.
This is the stuff you've got to wrap your core around, because this is the stuff you actually like in yourself. It's exciting to you. How do you use that stuff and make you a winner?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could take all your dark stuff and hide it and be ashamed of it and sneak around about it and turn yourself into some kind of freak.
And it will work against you. The more you hide it, yeah. Yeah.
And so many organizations that we get hooked up with, whether it's political or social or religious or whatever, want to shame us so that we stuff any thoughts that aren't homogenized and pasteurized and socialized and, you know, medicated. So that we're all the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, all of us being the same is such a disaster. When it's our unique qualities that make us exciting and thrilling and wonderful and special.
That is so true.
Until I did Basic Instinct, I didn't know that my dark side was my talent.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't really that friggin' dark. And that, you know, so what? Like, so what?
I had a question here because I'm not going to ask you what that personality traits of your sons are, but I wanted to ask you, what do you see of yourself in your sons?
Tenacity, unbelievable humor. My kids are hilarious, just hilarious. They're all a little bit feral. They all have a little bit of that innate wildness in them,
Okay, that's good.
which I really, really admire and like about them. They all have tender hearts and tough exteriors.
Mhm.
And they're spoiled.
But that's good. It's in a good way.
Sometimes they're a little bit too spoiled, but you know, we've all been living in a house together for 2.5 years. It's like a fraternity house. Uh,
Nevertheless, in all the ways
they
they are.
smell a little bit.
That's
A
part of
lot of teenagers, they just kind of stink a little.
well, they do have one thing that's absolutely amazing, which is like a great example as a mom. And you truly are an inspiration, not just because of everything we've talked about here and everything you've said with no filter and such a big honesty, but also for everything you've done for humanitarian causes and fights you've done, like AIDS and homelessness and all of that. Why did you always feel, I mean, it's obvious that it's in your nature to be an activist. Every time you speak, you're being an activist, either for yourself, for your profession, or for everyone. But I wanted to ask you, how do you feel it was so important for you to lend your face and a voice to those who didn't? Was it just easier? Was it just something that was part of you to start doing that?
I think because, first of all, I had to use my voice to protect my sister.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it kind of just started like that, maybe. And I think also because I just hate bullies. I think bullies suck, and I think they're cowards.
Yeah.
And I think that when people don't take care of humanity and they don't, they leave children, particularly sleeping in the streets and starving, that this level of selfishness and lack of care is, I mean, I just don't think any mother can say that that's okay.
Yeah.
It's just not okay. It's just like there's no way to pretend that any of that is just okay. It's not okay.
Was there any of the fights and or episodes you were involved in had a particular impact on you that you can remember? Like if there was a particular time where you thought this is too hard, going home and just forget that this happened or that I saw this or that I saw that.
You know, I've stood by a lot of dying people in my work as a in my field work as an AIDS worker.
Mm.
And I've had to face a lot of death and dying. And I think I've reached the point where the straw has broken the camel's back, and I am deeply grieving. And I'm trying to put that in perspective for myself now. I lost my 11-month-old godson and nephew to sudden infant death this year. And I think it became very traumatic for me, but I think that it was ultimately that trauma works in a way where it's it piles on, you know, and eventually something will break it. And when he died, it was just like the last, it triggered an endless pile of seeing babies, infants, toddlers dying of AIDS, children dying of AIDS. And when I see people who won't wear a mask or won't get vaccinated, And it's all about them and their thoughts and their feelings and their needs and their blah, 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 blah. And they don't stop and think about the children that can't get vaccinated.
Mm.
And I have stood by and watched scores of children die from infectious disease, stood by their bedside while infants take their last fucking breath. And I listened to some moron like DeSantis in Florida, the biggest pit of COVID on our planet, blather on about human rights. I really would like to hit him in the fucking head with a baseball bat, because you have no idea that you're spreading this disease that's killing children and infants and toddlers. And I know what it's like to stand with them and their families while they die in front of me. And I have such deep and profound disrespect that I wish that they would put him in jail. I wish they put these people in jail. This is like polio and malaria and the Black Plague, and this is an infectious disease. This isn't an opinion. And it just makes me so upset. And so when my infant nephew died during COVID, the piling on of grief, it just broke for me finally, where I just couldn't take it anymore. I just couldn't take it. I can't handle the carelessness. I just can't personally, emotionally handle the endless carelessness of this. I can't cope with the 2,000 people a day still dying. It just, the years and years and years that I begged for money in crowded rooms, stood in overcrowded laboratories while we were getting nowhere, when 10,000, 20,000, 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, 12 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million people were dying of AIDS, and we had nothing. And I kept asking for money and asking for money and asking for money and being with these people while they were dying. And I had to keep asking for money and keep going into the laboratories and the hospitals and the hospices and doing it over and over and over again, year after year, after decade. What it cost me in my psyche. Now, while people are dying and allowing children to die again when there is a vaccine, I've worn out all of my
Protest phrases.
my patience, my calm. I can't stand next to the bed and watch another infant and toddler die because some asshole motherfucker won't wear a mask or get a shot. I can't handle it anymore. It was one thing when I was begging for the money so that we could maybe get someone to believe that we should have a vaccine when 40 million people were already dead. But when we have a vaccine and people won't take it, I want to pound my head on the floor. I've reached the end of my tether. So now in my work, as anything that I do, my patience is done. It's just done. It's like respect or go away. Like, you will respect me. You will respect what's happening. You will respect, I'm not going on to a set where everybody isn't vaccinated. I'm not negotiating. I'm not working unless you respect me like you respect my male co-star. I'm not negotiating. Like, I don't have any more bandwidth for the shenanigans. I've seen too much. I've been too far. I've done too much. I've met too many prime ministers, too many presidents, too many crying parents, too many children with dead parents who are going to die soon. I can't. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I really hope that this speech also helps whoever hasn't heard whatever you had to say, just hear it now. And if one person changes their mind, it's this little speech has been like worth the whole interview. So I really hope it.
You know what? It's just it. I can't stand next to another dying person and try to explain to their family that there was nothing we could do when we could have done everything.
Yeah, yeah. I have two more questions. One is a funnier one, which I'll leave to the end because after this speech, it just seems like terrible to introduce it here. But I wanted to ask you, going back to Hollywood and treating women in Hollywood, what still needs to be done to change the way women are portrayed in Hollywood or treated as actresses?
We just have to, it just has to be like we're making a contract for a guy.
Yeah.
Just make my contract the same as everybody else's. I don't want anything special. I don't want anything different. I don't need green jelly beans in my room and all the furniture to be white, like half of these guys put in their stupid contracts. I don't need all the special, stupid stuff. I just want the same thing you're making for them. I want the same exact contract. Whatever they got, give it to me. That's fine. I don't even ask for a special contract. I say, whatever they got, give it to me.
Yeah.
I don't even ask what they got.
Yeah. Chad, basic equality. That's all. That's yeah. No better, no less.
I don't even want to be treated like a woman. Don't treat me like a woman. Treat me like a player.
Yeah.
Same player, same day, same player. Just treat me like another player on the field. Treat me like the team.
Yeah. I'm curious because I read this in an interview, so I wanted to ask you, what's your phone ringtone?
Call me.
Piggy, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways. Guess that's why they're broken, you're so mean. Piggy, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways.
I love that. I love that. If I don't know what to say. If I wasn't your biggest fan before, I'm certainly am now. This is
Who's better than Piggy, babe?
I don't know. Do you have any more
No.
questions? I'm just
Let's not forget, Biggie had a lazy eye and was an overweight, tall, shy black man.
yeah.
And that's our hero.
Yeah, and he's the ringtone for Sharon Stone.
And you know what? You can be sure he was not the popular kid at school.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet he was bullied and screwed with and told he was never going to be important.
Yeah. Take that, world.
Yeah, I bet he was not paid fairly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but now he's putting his Sharon Stone on and
I love that sentence.
putting Sharon Stone on.
All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you so
too.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.